Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network, and today's topic is reality and how the reality that we believe, imagine, experience shapes our being and our actions, and should be an interesting conversation. But before we get started, I want to say good morning, Rosalind. Wonderful to have you here with us this morning, and welcome to everybody else who's joining us. It is a Monday and the beginning of a new week, and what better way to start a week than doing a reality check, right? Anyway, before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light, lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, all your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's place our palms together and vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the pressure, the motion, the temperature, and all those sensations, as well as the tickling and tingling when you stop. And allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables you to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So the question is reality. And it is debatable as to whether we have an opportunity to experience the real reality or our perceptions of it. And it's interesting. I was watching a video this morning, called Living in the Age of Dying. And if you're interested, it's on YouTube and it's free. And with a requested donation, but not a required one. And it is a very straight on look at the situation, I guess is the best way to say it, on the planet at the moment relating to climate change and the devastating impact. And the vantage point of the film was from scientists and from some meditators and people that are waking up to the extremity of the circumstance that we face in regard to climate change and the potential demise of humanity in this sixth extinction, that our survival is also threatened in the crises that are already in process, not just coming, but that are already in process. And so, I want so deeply to rebel against that notion of reality. I want so deeply in my heart to say we can fix it. And even if we can fix it, we're in for, people are already experiencing dire consequences of the situation, and maybe we can fix it. And there's a lot of disruption that we're going to be facing. And so in any case, in watching this, it was profoundly moving and very disturbing, and a wake-up call. And it brought to mind for me, I get how we can see that reality. In fact, there's so much that indicates the truth of it. And I don't know, we don't know what we don't know. And there is potential to be, there's potential that we're unaware of. I'm clinging to hope around this. However, it brought me to thinking about what are the realities that we experience, and how is it that we experience them, because so many people on this planet currently are oblivious to this notion. Not the notion of climate change, but maybe a lot of people are, actually. A lot of people live really oblivious to it. And it's interesting because yesterday I heard a thing on NPR with I guess she's a psychologist who has started an institute, or the school of climate psychology, or climate distress psychology, or something, because related to the despair around the direction that we're headed. And she's actually an expert witness in two cases that are being brought against governments. One is Juliana versus United States, which is, this is part of, I think it's part of Our Children's Trust, if you're interested in finding out about it. But there are lawsuits all over the world that are being brought by kids against governments for failing in preserving our right to a clean water, clean air, and a healthful environment. And one of the cases that this woman is testifying in is a case in Montana, because Montana and Pennsylvania are two of the only states, maybe the only two, although there may have been a few added since, that actually in the state's Bill of Rights guarantee a right to clean water, let's see, what is it? Oh my gosh. Life, liberty, and property. And so in Montana, there's a lot of fossil fuel industry that is compromising those rights that are written into the Bill of Rights in the state. So it's interesting that these things are converging, that there's a greater awakening. And one of the things that this woman said is that we all have an awareness around this transformation that's happening. We all have an awareness that we are imperiled, and that we are essentially heading off a cliff, and that wears on us whether consciously or not. It's part of the zeitgeist of the moment. And we have never, ever had to face anything like this in our recorded history, where life as we know it is deeply imperiled. And it was interesting in that conversation with the psychologist, because they were talking about years ago when I was growing up, we were facing a nuclear threat. And the craziest thing, they had us going through these nuclear drills when we were in school, and we would hide under the desk, like that was going to make a difference, to hide under the desk to protect yourself from nuclear attack. And she's made the distinction, saying that this threat of climate change, the threat of extinction, actually is very different from a war. It's very immediate. The kids and we as adults see evidence of this all over the place. We see fires and floods and rising water levels and change of temperature. And it's not just climate change. It's like a massive disruption on the planet. Good morning, Bernadette. Welcome. We're talking about reality and perspective on reality. And also, like, what is it going to take for people to wake up to a given reality? I mean, there is all kinds of evidence that is just obvious, like fires and floods and temperature and more extreme weather that we all see, that we all are living with. And it's crazy to me that we are not sounding the alarm and calling people to action and taking radical steps to shift this. It's like, what does it take? A certain degree of reality is subjective, right? Like how we integrate the facts of the matter, what we make those mean. But in this particular case, there is an urgent cry for action, and has been actually since, well, when the fossil fuel industry took off, they did a study that predicted climate change, and that was in the 50s. And then in the 80s, people were sounding the alarm to say, we're headed off a cliff. And now the cliff is within sight. Like it's not some distant conceptual thing. We're seeing the edges of the cliff as we speak. Bernadette says this is not a new thing because we've been mourned for hundreds of years, predictions for centuries. Well, that's interesting, Bernadette, actually. But the thing that is different is that there's this refusal to engage, to really recognize how dire this is in this moment, and to find the willingness to act accordingly. So in this film, and I do recommend it, it was painful to watch and emotionally wrenching, actually. And this one, I don't know if, I guess she's a Zen Buddhist. I'm not certain if that, I may be misrepresenting, but she spoke about how being present to the sadness being present to the devastation of what is already happening, is a tender place that provides a heart opening and a space of love and appreciation for what is, what the beauty that we have, the richness that we have, the loss that we're experiencing. And even for me, and I'm very present to a lot of sustainability things and trying to be as conscious as possible, and paying attention. Even for me, I want so desperately to cling to hope that we can figure out how to fix this. And it's not going to happen without a change of will and without a change of heart and a change of paradigm about how we interact with the world. We interact with the world in a very predatory way. And until we shift those paradigms, we're not going to be shifting our behavior. And so the question is, how do we do that? With urgency, with urgency. So Bernadette says, I think the refusal comes from not being totally inflicted by the changes occurring. It hasn't physically hurt people for the masses to sit up and pay mind to it. Yeah. And I think you're right, Bernadette. Although, for instance, our very own Ruth Anderson, who is the genius behind Enlightened World Network, her house was burned to the ground from the fires in California. And so if it hasn't hit us personally, it's hit people we know, or that we know people who know people. It's here, it's present. All we have to do is look. I have another client friend who was in California for these incredible fires and floods and incredible storms and power outages. And, this is something that is becoming more and more common. And so the question is, what do we make of these facts, these occurrences? What do we make of them? What do we make them mean? Do we make it mean that there's nothing we can do, so we just dance while the ship is sinking? Or do we cultivate what they said in the movie that I thought was so powerful and meaningful, was that what we need to do is to start listening to the earth. And as we listen to our inner calling, as we get more deeply connected, that we'll be guided into right action. And I believe that. I mean, if there's hope, if each of us were to allow ourselves to be awoken, to be listening, to be following the calling of nature, of the earth, to be connecting with our deep soul, I think that we would take appropriate action. And that may be our hope for moving through these very interesting times. Bernadette says, always something can be done. It's a matter of choice. And the question is, is that something? I pray that there is something, and that there are many things being done to turn the ship. We all know, though, that it takes a lot to turn the ship. And it's a matter of whether we can turn it in time, and what that means, what that looks like, what's going to happen in the interim. And so to create some sense of presence and peace in the face of potentially cataclysmic circumstances, to cultivate the listening, to cultivate our ability to be responsive. Bernadette says the masses of people can change the outcome, I think. Well, I agree. And what it is going to take is waking the masses of people out of complacency and out of denial and into action to require the changes that need to be made. We're so deeply entrenched. Even those of us who are really deliberately trying to be conscious about it, we're so deeply entrenched in the system as it exists, the carbon economy, the lifestyle, like the convenience of bottled water, the convenience of packaged food, there's so many things. But if we collectively choose, I guess the question is, what is it going to take to motivate that collective decision and that collective awakening? What's it going to take to shift the awareness, out of whatever this denial type reality that so many of us live in, because it's such a profound burden. I mean, they're talking about trying to get climate anxiety to be a diagnosis so that insurance can cover it, because it's becoming so prevalent, and very largely among the children, because the children are going to be, they see it all over the place, and it's their future. It's the world that they're growing into. And so I believe in miracles, first of all. I believe that there's always hope, and there's a lot that we get to contend with on the way there. And the question is, what do we bring to it? Do we bury our heads in the sand and pretend it doesn't exist? Or do we recognize it face on and use that? It's almost like if you were told you have 6 months to live, and I'm not saying that we have 6 months to live, but I'm using this as an example. But if you were told you had 6 months to live, what qualities, what would you bring to life? How would you live that time? Would you pretend that you didn't know and just go on with business as usual? Or would you respond differently? Would you make different choices? And I don't mean hedonistic choices. I mean like if someone were told that they had a terminal condition, maybe they would be choosing to find ways to extend their lives. Maybe they would, they would maybe make different choices. And I wonder if we know that we're headed in this direction and we believe that there's something we can do, then what do we do? Let's do it. What is it that it takes? In some countries, people are in the streets and protesting and demanding change. And what would it be to become more active with our government to say, hey, I'm holding you accountable. Bernadette says more people to be totally affected by what needs to change. Well, see, the thing is, we are affected. We're just not paying attention. Bernadette says, I would change nothing as I feel I live my authentic life and try my best in everything I do. What do we do to prepare? That's the question. What do we do to prepare? Maybe we become aware. Maybe we just become more present. Maybe we become more grateful. Maybe we become more connected. Maybe we build local community. Maybe we take community action, because action is the antidote to impotence, right? Action is the antidote to depression or to hopelessness or helplessness. It's a way that we can become empowered, is to take some kind of action, to find where we can make a difference. And part of that is listening to your heart and soul. And so getting more connected, I think that's how we begin to prepare, is to just get more connected to ourselves, to our soul's calling, to each other, to our communities. And as we are inspired, we will be inspired, and we can then take inspired action. I don't think that we can figure it out based on our limited knowledge. I think that we're relying upon the wisdom of the planet to direct us in her wisdom. And so with that, that's it for today, talking about reality. And I invite you to check out that movie. I think it's called Living in the Time of Dying, and super powerful. And I think that's it for this morning. And I really, really deeply appreciate you and your willingness to go to these often challenging spaces, but to be facing and at least entertaining new ways of thinking and new ways of being. And so with that, I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live each weekday morning here on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And I invite you to check out the other awesome programming on Enlightened World Network and Enlightened World Living Facebook pages. And until next time, so much love to you.